Hey there, today I'm going to go over our first wave of the Guardians of the Galaxy releasing in March. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. So I'm pretty excited for our first wave of the Guardians because I had no idea what to expect. And even from just these first three characters, we're already getting a pretty good feel for the affiliation identity, and several characters that didn't have a perfect home before, I think may have just found a great group of heroes that are very easy to slot into. But before I dive into why I think some outliers now have a good home, we need to look at these new characters and the affiliation as a whole and how they work before all the different pieces begin to line up. To start off, I'm going to go over the dashing leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy, StarLord, who has the alter ego of Peter Quill. He has a stamina value of 6, the medium move speed, as a size 2 character with a threat value of 3. His physical, energy, and mystic defenses are all at 3, and his first attack has a range of 4, strength of 5, and a power cost of 0, and the really nice thing is it's an energy attack. It's called Element Gun, and after this attack is resolved, like so many other strikes, he's going to be able to gain power equal to the damage dealt. His big attack is full auto, has a range of 4, strength of 7, and a power cost of 3. On a wild, it gains Element Blast. After this attack is resolved, for each wild in the attack, the defending character gains one of the following special conditions: bleed, shock, slow, or stun. Then we can dive into his superpowers. The first one is Winging It. It's the leadership ability for the Guardians of the Galaxy, and once per round at the start of your turn, you may choose an allied character and discard a team tactic card to use this leadership ability. The chosen character gains 3 Winging It tokens. After rolling attack dice, defense dice, or dodge dice, it may discard 1 Winging It token and re-roll 2 of its dice in that roll. Only 1 Winging It token may be discarded per roll. Remove all Winging It tokens at the end of from that character at the end of the round. As well, he also has 2 innate abilities. The first one is Plucky Attitude. When attacking, if the character doesn't roll any hits, you have a chance to reroll all of your dice. And the same thing with defending if you don't roll any blocks. And then his other innate abilities are Flight, and he has the Gem Bearer for the Power Gem. On his injured side, not much changes, but he does lose a single point of stamina. So StarLord has a lot of things going for him. 11 health as a 3-threat character with average defenses. He is the first 3-threat affiliation leader, which also makes him very splashable into other lists if you are just looking for a good range damage dealer. Range 4 energy is nothing groundbreaking, but 5 dice is a good number for a free ranged attack, especially with energy. Where it can get fun is StarLord's bigger attack, Full Auto. Full Auto, just to be clear, is Hulk and Thor's nightmare, and in large part why no one is going to look at you funny if StarLord just so happens to be in your list with the Wakandans or Cabal or whoever. Bleed is annoying, but the really bad ones here are Stun, Slow, and Shock. Now, yes, characters that only move short anyways aren't going to care about slow, but Venom, Groot, Crossbones, and Hulk, all who are getting hit by a 7 dice energy attack, are probably more worried about their defense value of 2 against the attack. And then all of them will care about the stun, shock, and bleed conditions if they aren't already dazed or KO'd by the end of it all. StarLord's leadership ability is one that lines up very well with the Guardians, and is what makes a random character coming in with them so appealing. Once per round, which is notably not once per turn, you can discard a team tactic card to give a character 3 tokens that will disappear at the end of the round. What is nice about these 3 tokens is being able to reroll up to 2 dice for an attack, defense roll, dodge roll. It gets really nasty. Now, you can even just give them to himself and start fishing for wilds on full auto and do all sorts of disgusting things there. The only downside is that you have to do these things at the beginning of one of your turns, so you cannot activate it after some poor dice rolls. Plucky Attitude is really good for turning those abysmal rolls around, and Flight is never a bad thing. Peter does have the access to the Power Gem, which is one that is very straightforward. For 1 threat, you get an extra 2 power per turn on that character. For StarLord, that just means a guaranteed full auto attack every turn, and for 1 threat, that doesn't seem like a bad deal at all. So as far as pros and cons go for Peter, he has some great attacks and is able to hand out status conditions like a champ. He does also have some consistency help with Plucky Attitude, but it's not going to be very consistent help. Don't rely on it. It's there to help, but meh. He really just shines as a ranged energy attacker with some dice for 3 threat or 4 threat with the Power Stone, and that Power Stone helps him hit that much harder. On the downside, he's as fragile as most any other 3-cost character. He's not necessarily going to fall over every single time, but as I have seen Zemo, Shuri, and Valkyrie all get dazed after one strike of one kind or another, I'm sure I'll get to see it happen to StarLord as well. But if that's the biggest downside for StarLord, he's still doing quite well. And I'm now excited to talk about his other buddies we see in March, the dynamic duo of a kind tree and a really mean raccoon, starting with the tree. Groot has the alter ego of I Am Groot, has the stamina value of 7, the move speed of short, is a size 3 character with a threat value of 3. His physical defense is 4, his energy defense is 2, and his mystic defense is 3. He has a range 2 strike that has a strength of 5, power cost of 0, and has that oh so familiar line of text of gains power equal to the damage dealt. And his big attack is also physical, called I Am Groot, with an exclamation mark on the end for good measure. It's also range 2, but has a strength of 8 and a power cost of 6. Before damage is dealt, this character may throw the target character medium, and after the attack is resolved, the target character gains the Stagger special condition. Groot also has 2 active superpowers. The first one is Living Plant. It has a power cost of 2 and simply says, remove 3 damage from this character. And then his other ability is Tangling Vines. It's also active, also has a power cost of 2. This one allows you to choose an enemy character within range 3, and it gains the Root special condition. Groot's injured side is the exact same as the healthy side, and he is a pretty straightforward character. He has a lot of health, decent defenses except for energy, and an absurd healing power. His strike and I Am Groot are unfortunately capped at range 2, but if you can get off an I Am Groot at the right time, well, it costs 6 power for a reason. A guaranteed throw is solid. A guaranteed throw that goes medium with no size restriction is unheard of when attached to an attack. And if that wasn't enough, there's also a guaranteed stagger. Not that it will matter most of the time, because I have a feeling whoever is on the receiving end of this attack will be dazed between the collision damage and the 8 dice swinging in. His other abilities are both quite good and very annoying. Living Plant breaks the usual 1 power to heal 1 damage ratio that I thought was pretty balanced. Instead, for 2 power, you can heal 3. What this really means is if Groot has taken 6 damage and lives, Groot can then activate and use Living Plant twice, just from the power he got from the damage, and now has full health with power left over. His other superpower roots enemies, which just means that they have to pay 1 power to use any active or reactive superpower. So Groot again is a really straightforward character who can take some damage and give some damage back, especially if he has the power to do so. The downsides for him are the slower movement speed, and that 2 energy defense really holds him back from being a very tanky character. However, Groot really isn't a 3-threat model in my opinion. He is just 1/2 of a 5-threat character, and the other 2-threat is a little bit more explosive. Rocket Raccoon has the alter ego of Rocket Raccoon, has a stamina value of 3, moves medium, is a size 1 character, and has a threat value of 2. His physical and energy defenses are both pretty low at 2 and has a mystic defense of 3. His first attack is Plasma Rifle. It's a strength 5, range 5, power cost of 0 energy attack that has that usual line of text of gains power equal to the damage dealt. And then his bigger attack, the Hadron Enforcer, is range 5, strength 7, and it has a power cost of 4. But on a wild, you gain Vortex. Before damage is dealt, enemy characters that are within range 2 of the character suffer 1 damage and are pushed toward that target character short. If those 2 attacks don't have enough damage dealing capabilities for your usual 2-threat character, Rocket also has the reactive power Booby Traps. It costs 3, but when an enemy character ends a movement within range 3 of this character may use this superpower. Roll 4 dice and the enemy suffers 1 damage for each crit and wild rolled. He also has a personal bodyguard ability that has a power cost of 0. When this character is the target of an attack and an allied Groot is within range 1 of this character, you may use this superpower. The allied Groot becomes the target of the attack regardless of range and line of sight. And as well, he has the innate ability of small stature. This character always benefits from cover. So, Rocket is a glass cannon in just about every way you can imagine it. But he has quite a few things going on for him defensively that don't just include his best friend. First off, he is a glass cannon, and while the glass part isn't what you like to hear, he is still 100% canon. Earlier I was bragging on StarLord and his nice range 4-5 strength energy attack. Rocket does it better. And Hadron Enforcer can also clump up your enemies and has AoE damage. Just to be clear, AoE, area of effect on a 2-threat character. Rocket is quite the cannon indeed. So let's look at what measures he has to protect his glass exterior. The most obvious thing is his personal bodyguard when he is near Groot. It basically lets him have a Hail Hydra his attacks over to his buddy. The downside to this is as soon as a push effect comes into play, or even worse, Groot gets thrown at Rocket, Rocket's gonna end up getting dazed. As well, Rocket has permanent cover because it is hard to hit small things compared to normal sized ones. However, I think Rocket's best defense is his size. Not that he easily gains cover from it because he always has cover, but rather because of how line of sight works in this game. With the line of sight rules, Rocket can be behind a size 2 piece of terrain and be invisible to everybody on the other side of it. With a range 5 weapon, that means he can pretty easily get situated behind a car or a dumpster and see anyone size 2 or larger, but they can't see him. This is going to leave your opponent in a bad spot. They can either try to ignore him while Rocket is laying down some fire, and I'm not talking about him just taking pot shots, but he's popping off AP rounds into the enemy team. Or your opponent has to take a character away from an objective or away from more important combat to take 2 activations to try to take out this raccoon permanently. Oh, and if that character is the range 2 or range 3 kind of character, I really hope that they have more than 2 stamina left, because booby traps is like a Counter-Strike, but much more preemptive. So the downside is pretty obvious. If the wind gets too strong, Rocket will fall over and shatter, but if your 2-threat cannon takes out a couple of characters with him, he is well worth the investment. So, if the Guardians didn't seem to be strong enough on their own, let's take a look at some of the team tactic cards that you can field with them, starting with Rocket and Groot's team-up card, Deadly Duo. Rocket and Groot have to be within range 2 of one another and then spend 2 power each. Rocket can then proceed to make up to 3 attacks that target different enemy characters, and it doesn't even count as an action. What makes this really good is with StarLord, Rocket can get some rerolls, and since all of the plasma rifle attacks that he gets get power back and don't cost an action, there's definite potential for a Hadron Collider follow-up. The next one I want to talk about also comes with Rocket and Groot's expansion, but this one is all about Groot. We Are Groot allows Groot to play as a support to not just Rocket, but the entire team. Groot can spend 3 power to play this active card. Then Groot and all allied characters within range 4 of his 50mm base get to heal 2. So worst case, this is going to heal Groot for 2 and another ally for 2, and that's still better than the golden 1-to-1 ratio that we've had before this. Anything after that is just bonus healing. This card will probably be a little more difficult to have perfect timing with and may not work as well when objectives are spread across the board, but this will be very powerful during the Gamma Waves or Origin Bomb crises. Crises. So there is also the flavorful and fun Rocket Boots card that can blow up in your face, but also gives your character flight for a turn and doesn't even cost any power. But the affiliation staple tactic card for the Guardians is the Crew of the Milano. It requires the affiliation, but any number of Guardians of the Galaxy can spend 1 to play it. Each character that spent power removes all special conditions and then cannot suffer special conditions this round. So it's kind of like Asgard's leadership ability on steroids. Sure, getting rid of status conditions is nice, but making them stay off for the rest of the round is huge. So, now that we know who the starting Guardians are and what they look like, what can we guess about the future of this affiliation? Well, the Guardians are going to be able to be easily built as a heavy activation list. We only have 3 characters and their total threat adds up to 8, including the leader of the affiliation. Knowing we are still getting Drax, Nebula, Gamora, and Ronan in the near future, sorry Angela, Nebula will probably be a 3-threat character, and depending on what powers they give to Gamora and Drax, they can probably be guaranteed to be in the range of 3 to 4 threat themselves. Ronan will probably be a 4 threat or higher, or maybe even a 4 threat that can hold on to the Power Stone. All of this to say, you can cram a lot of Guardians into your team and spend the rest of your threat on strong utility characters, or you might just want to go the route of out-activating your opponents by 2 or 3 characters. We will see if any of this holds true, but they aren't off to a bad start. All of this to say, the Guardians look great, and because they don't cost much to get an affiliation, older characters that had trouble with dice but are otherwise good just got a lot better. The first example that springs to mind is Venom. Venom is a solid character, don't get me wrong, with decent survivability and his We Are Venom attack, but I have whiffed a time too many with that We Are Venom, which then leads to Venom going down for the count. Venom will be able to use a token to reroll defense after being attacked, maybe even a forced attack from Lethal Protector. Then we'll get to make an attack with so many snacks, and you have some dice to reroll there as well. And then during his activation, you still have another token for some rerolls. The Guardians are looking like a pretty unique affiliation, and I'm excited to get them on the table and see how the rest of the team works when they are revealed. I do have a question for you all. Who do you think will benefit from getting a temporary Guardians membership the most? Venom was my number 1 pick, but I have a couple others in mind, and I'm curious who you think would fit into the new crew. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and click the like button if you like the video. And as always guys, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.